Welcome to Grace Daily Motivation. Today we're going to explore one of the most fascinating stories in the Bible, the story of Samson and Delilah. Their tale of love, betrayal, and redemption has captured the imagination of millions, and we're going to dive deeper into the web of intrigue surrounding Samson's downfall. The setting: the story of Samson and Delilah takes place during the time of the Judges, a period of Israel's history marked by violence, idolatry, and disobedience to God. Samson was a Nazarite, someone who was consecrated to God from birth, and who had to follow certain rules, including not cutting his hair. Delilah was a woman from the nearby valley of Sorek, who was likely a Philistine. Samson's strength. One of the most famous aspects of Samson's story is his incredible strength. According to the Bible, Samson's strength came from his long hair, which symbolized his Nazarite vow. Samson's physical power was legendary, and he used it to fight against the Philistines, Israel's enemies. Samson and Delilah meet. Samson fell in love with Delilah, and their relationship was marked by a game of deception. The Philistines offered Delilah a large sum of money to find out the source of Samson's strength, and she used her wiles to try and discover his secret. 3 times she asked Samson about the source of his strength, and 3 times he gave her a false answer. Delilah's deception. Finally, after much pleading and cajoling, Samson told Delilah the truth, that his strength came from his long hair. Delilah betrayed Samson, cutting his hair while he slept, and allowing the Philistines to capture him. Samson's imprisonment and blindness. The Philistines took Samson to Gaza, where they imprisoned him and put out his eyes. Samson's physical strength was gone, and he was now at the mercy of his enemies. But even in his weakness, Samson still had faith in God and prayed for strength to defeat the Philistines. Samson's redemption. At a Philistine festival in Gaza, Samson was brought out to entertain the crowd. He asked God for strength one last time, and God granted his request. Samson pushed down the pillars of the temple, killing himself and thousands of Philistines. It was a final act of redemption and a victory for God's people. The lessons of Samson and Delilah. The story of Samson and Delilah teaches us many valuable lessons. One of the most important is the danger of compromise. Samson compromised his vow to God by pursuing a relationship with Delilah, and it ultimately led to his downfall. The story also reminds us of the importance of obedience to God's commands and the consequences of disobedience. The role of Delilah. Delilah is a complex character in the story of Samson. Some see her as a seductress, while others see her as a victim of the Philistines' manipulation. Regardless of how we view her, her actions led to Samson's capture and ultimately his redemption. God's grace and forgiveness. Even in his weakness and failure, God still had a plan for Samson. He used Samson's final act of redemption to bring about victory for Israel. This is a powerful reminder of God's grace and forgiveness. No matter how far we may fall or how badly we may fail, God's love and mercy are always available to us if we turn back to Him. The importance of repentance. Another important lesson we can learn from Samson's story is the importance of repentance. Despite his many faults and mistakes, Samson was still able to turn back to God in his darkest hour and seek forgiveness. We too can turn to God in repentance, seeking His forgiveness and the strength to overcome our own weaknesses. The power of faith. Throughout Samson's story, we see the power of faith. Despite all of his trials and hardships, Samson never lost his faith in God. Even when he was weak and imprisoned, he still prayed to God for strength and guidance. This faith ultimately led to his redemption and victory over his enemies. The relevance of the story today. While the story of Samson and Delilah may have taken place thousands of years ago, its lessons are still relevant today. We all face struggles and temptations in our lives, and the story of Samson reminds us of the dangers of compromise and disobedience. It also reminds us of the power of faith and the importance of repentance and seeking God's forgiveness. In conclusion, the story of Samson and Delilah is a powerful tale of love, betrayal, and redemption. Through their story, we can learn valuable lessons about the dangers of compromise, the importance of obedience to God's commands, and the power of faith and repentance. We can also be reminded of God's grace and forgiveness, which are always available to us if we turn back to Him. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining us for today's video. If you found this content helpful, please consider subscribing to our channel for more daily motivation and inspiration. We look forward to seeing you again soon.